A review of the Champions League final. Ideye signs 2-year deal with Göztepe, and other transfer news expected to go through this week. These are some of the stories ahead of this edition of your number one sports podcast, which begins in a moment. All right, welcome back. This is Still Spot the Money, and I am Bimbola Oyele. Let's get straight into the conversation. And this morning, we will be joined by Deji Faremi of the Busy Body Sports Gang. Good morning, Deji.
Good morning, Bimbo. How are you doing today?
Yeah, fine. Novak Djokovic has withdrawn from the doubles. He did that on Sunday of the Western and Southern Open in New York. Well, he cited neck pain, but then he's still going to play in the singles in the build-up to the U.S. Open. What do you think will happen at the U.S. Open this year? The competition starts August 31st. But a lot of key players have pulled out, especially in the women's category.
Bimbo, I think it should be an anti-climax, unfortunately. And, like you said already, so many big players out of the competition. Obviously, it's an opportunity for the lesser players to win a Grand Slam of theirs. It doesn't matter if it's a Grand Slam that had Roger Federer, Rafa Nadal, or one that didn't have them. So I think that's what some of the, with all due respect, lesser players will be looking at. That's what they'll be looking to achieve. But, from my own perspective, I just think it'll be an anti-climax. We want to see the big players play the Grand Slam. And if these players are not playing, not because they are injured, but because, the current pandemic still going, fears about, the protocol and all of that, then you start to feel that it takes a bit out of it. Though I'm a bit surprised that some of these players are pulling out. I think, generally, and we've seen that with a lot of sports as well. We've seen it in football, obviously. We've seen it in basketball. We've seen it in golf, even though, not a contact sport. Tennis isn't either. But we've seen a lot of these sports do pretty decently or, quite well as far as managing, the whole COVID-19 is concerned. The protocols have been spot on. In fact, in some cases, almost watertight. In basketball, for instance, all the players in the bubble, we haven't heard of any situation of any player, being positive for COVID-19. We have seen those cases in football. But, the point here is you think that maybe the players should trust the authorities more, that maybe the players should give it a try. And, let's see if we can, as soon as possible, get back to what life used to be. Unfortunately, the players are not believing in that at the moment. I guess we have to wait for the French Open before we see the full cast of tennis players at the Grand Slam, Bimbo.
And this is probably the best opportunity for Serena Williams to win that record-tying 24th Grand Slam title with only Naomi Osaka seemingly the obstruction to, getting to it.
I think, for someone like me who's always been a fan of Serena Williams, we've always hoped that she would get the fourth Grand Slam. I think, like you said, it's a big chance for her. If you look at the players right there, there's Karolina Pliskova, Fine Good, Naomi Osaka, there's Petra Kvitova as well, Madison Keys. But, I don't think that you can't deny that it's easier this time around. That's what I was going to say. So, I think it's easier for her. I think, it's a better chance for her than she's had in so many years. The feels definitely weaker than it could be. Could be stronger than this. So yeah, hopefully for fans of Serena Williams and for people who are looking at history is made in this era, I think she goes there and she does it, and maybe can say bye bye to the sport eventually at the end of the year, because lots of injuries. There's been a lot of issues surrounding her, the tennis league as well. So yeah, and you feel like it's just about time. She's winding down, getting to the end of her career. It'd be nice for her to bow down in style and with a bang.
All right, let's move on to the weekend's main event, as it will seem. Bayern Munich, champions of the UEFA Champions League. It was a slim victory against Paris Saint-Germain, 1-0 in Lisbon. It's a 6th title for the Bavarians. Fully merited, you would say?
Absolutely, Bimbo. Some of us expected a huge scoring affair. Some people predicted 5 goals. I predicted 6 goals. I don't know where I saw that. But yeah, fully merited for Bayern Munich. They were the better side tactically. They were the better side as a team. They had the best individuals as well that turned up at the right time in the match. You look at a player like Manuel Neuer, it was huge for them. They had, Thiago Alcantara, who was very good as well, Thomas Müller, and obviously the goal scorer, Kingsley Coman, who was very good on the night. It was the surprise change in starting lineup when Perisic was dropped, and then there were debates over if Coman was the right man. In fact, Oliver Kahn, from Bayern Munich and England goalkeeper, was on TV and he was talking about how Coman wasn't a great decision for Bayern Munich. Turned out to be the perfect one because he was goal scorer ultimately. So yeah, like you said, well deserved for Bayern Munich. PSG didn't quite turn up. As a team, they were lacking, but even the individuals on that team that we thought, would step up if they needed them, talking about Neymar, Mbappe, and DiMaria, they were willful, they didn't make the right decisions. If you want to say they choked, yeah, you won't be too far from the truth. It doesn't matter the most. Neymar and Mbappe especially just didn't make the right decisions whenever they were the ball. So it has to see how Bayern Munich don't deserve this. I don't think there is any way to look at it, and it's Bayern Munich, they're champions, probably the best team as well all through, won all their games, from the group stage, won every single game. They didn't look at any point in any of their games that looked like they were really threatened. And so yeah, it's a well-deserved one. Credit to the Bayern Munich team, credit to the manager and the league, and yeah, we'll go again next year. So
PSG now, this is the best that they've come up with since the team took in some big money and started signing some big players. Can they sustain this momentum even into the next season, or do you think this was a one-off incident?
I think for PSG they have to do a lot to build a team. If there's anything we've seen from the Champions League, it's that you don't look your way through to it. You don't just win the Champions League by Melo. You need to have a team. You need to build a team. You need to build, a team over time as well. And they have to be ready for different kinds of situations before they can win the league. Look at the Bayern team, for instance. They had 4 players starting yesterday. 4 players who started in their last Champions League triumph in 2013. So 7 years, in between, and these guys are still going strong. These guys are still in the heart of the team, and it tells you so much about, how or what it takes to win the Champions League, and that's what PSG needs to focus on. There's Thiago Silva, a player who's been there for, about the same number of years, 7 years. But how many players in the PSG team have been there for 7 years? Those are the sort of questions you need to ask. They need to build a team. They have to do more, much more than relying on Mbappe and Neymar, because when push comes to shove, Bimbo, muscle memory and the things you've done over the years, the trust you have in your teammates, that's what counts. That's what we saw for Bayern Munich yesterday. There was a lot of level. There was a level of understanding that they had of the final of adversary and difficult situations that PSG rather just didn't have. So that's what PSG would need to focus on. They relied a lot on Mbappe and Neymar, DiMaria pulling up match yesterday. It didn't work because it hardly worked in the finals, hardly worked in the finals. So, yeah, I think they can maintain that momentum or they can keep it up, but they have to now focus on building a team. It has to be more about the collective rather than signing players. They need to look at, yes, it's been a decent project for them so far, but the project has been mainly about, bringing in stars. It's been kind of like Galacticos project, at Real Madrid all those years.
I was going to say that,
and, yeah, and you know how that turned out. It didn't turn out quite well. They almost always fluttered whenever the big pressure moment came. So I think it's something that you can take from as well. Look at Bayern Munich winning, look at Real Madrid winning previously as well. Even Liverpool were the one last season. When you look at how long the players have been there, how long they had to build, how long they had to suffer, all these things. So that's what PSG needs to look at. So unfortunately, a player like Thiago Silva is leaving the club. Players like Cavani, for instance, Cavani is leaving as well. You think that if you are building towards keeping that momentum, you have to keep players like that. You have to keep them around in the team. The experience they've had, from all these years will always count as we put deeper into the latter stages of the Champions League. So yeah, I guess that's it for PSG. They need to look beyond just the individuals, have to look at the team, have to build long term, have to be patient. You can't buy the Champions League. It's something we've come to see. You don't buy it, you don't take your way through to it. You have to build. And, ultimately, if you build well and you're patient, then you get it.
All right. Still talking about PSG, but now we're moving to transfers. Sky Sports is reporting that Chelsea are close to signing the defender Thiago Silva. Like you mentioned, he's leaving the club. He's 35 years old. Is he what Chelsea needs right now to bolster their defense?
Certainly not. I think news was going around it's been going around for about a week now. And, I just kept asking myself, if Chelsea are complaining about having individual problems or individual, a shortage in quality individually in the bench. Why are they going for a 35-year-old? Why are they going for a player who, one, would need some time to adapt to football in a new country, two, is close to, the final years of his career, three, doesn't have, legs anymore, so to say, not as quick as he used to be, would probably not be as sharp as he used to be at 35. Why is that the sort of player they're going for? A player who's only going to give them stuff short term. Maybe he has, good 6 months, maybe good 1 year, probably 2, but that's it. Chelsea are supposed to be thinking long term. They're supposed to be thinking of buying a young, promising centre back who's really good to go. And then they can build with him over the years. The problem with Chelsea defense, if you ask me, and I've said it on so many platforms, a few times as well. It's not just about individual defending. It's also about the collective. It's about, how the manager is defending. So if Lampard is bringing in Thiago Silva, does it change his ideal perspective on defending? How does that come to translate? It just doesn't make much sense to me. We're talking about the Chelsea side who, bought Werner, they brought in Ziyech. They probably want to give an arm and a leg to get Kai Havertz as well. All these attacking players, they've let Willian go, they've let Pedro go. It's testament to how much wealth they have as far as attacking players are concerned. But then the area on the pitch where they have so much problems, which is in defense, they're going ahead to buy the Thiago Silva, and with all due respect, the Ben Chilwell, who I don't rate so much, and they've been spending so much money on Chilwell. There's about £50 million is being reported. I just think, they should do better as far as planning for, their defensive recruits is concerned. I think they're paying too much attention to the attack, which is fine. Look at the profile of players brought into the attack. Kai Havertz, who they are looking to bring, by the way, Timo Werner, Hakim Ziyech, all these players, young, dynamic, futuristic, and then in defense, I think Thiago Silva. See, just makes so much more sense. I think they have to do better. I think they can do better. They have some young defensive players or defenders. Apparently, they don't trust them enough. I think, of course, like I said earlier, it's because sometimes the players are not reliable enough. Some other times, the defensive structure doesn't help the players too. But if you want to change those players and you want to solve one part of the problem, then you have to do better than Thiago Silva. Before we then move to the second part, which relies on the manager.
All right. We have just about a minute for you to answer this question. It's in two parts. The Pogba situation at Manchester United, his manager is saying that he's not going to leave, he's going to sign a new contract. And then the Messi situation at Barcelona. How do you think that will end up? Will he stay? Will he leave?
It has to be both. I'd answer this question as easily as possible. There's an age you get to as a footballer, and you start to consider your future because there's so much riding, there's so much at stake. You are, for Pogba in his mid-20s or, approaching his late 20s, currently he's 27, I believe. He's thinking about signing a new contract. He will have to sign a new contract in a few years. A contract that takes him into his 30s. He wants to sign a big contract for a club that has a project. Is Manchester United that club? So I think that's a big question for Pogba. He has to consider that carefully and make the right decision. The same thing applies to Messi. Messi is 33. Probably going to sign the final contract of his career, a 2-3 year deal that takes him into 35, 36, and start to consider quitting football. He has to make the right decision as well. So I don't think it's strange or rare that players at this age are thinking deeply about their choices. I think ultimately for the player, you'll be thinking about the club that has the project to keep him and to remain with him into those years. And you also be thinking about the club that can win stuff, going into those years as well. Nobody wants to suffer in football. I don't think anybody wants to, lose matches. Any footballer, regardless of how much you get paid or how much you earn, players don't win matches. Players want an environment that is conducive for them to work.
Yeah.
So I think that's what most players will be considering into these years or, in this time. And it's absolutely normal. If they leave their current clubs, United and Barcelona, I don't think we'll be out of place because at the moment those clubs probably are not offering them the best option. If those clubs were, then they would have signed the deals now.
Well, thank you so much, Deji, as always, for being with us on the show, and we hope you come back again very, very soon.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure, bro. Have a great day.
All right, thank you so much. And Brown Ideye has signed a new 2-year deal with Turkish Super League club Göztepe. The 31-year-old will continue his career in Turkey next season, making the 9th country where he will play professional football, and where our farewells to the ex-Falcons coach Mudashiru Yusuf, who died. His death was announced over the weekend. He was also the manager of the under-17 national team. He died in a private hospital in Oshogbo, Osun State in Nigeria. His death was announced by Tajuddin Amodu, the media officer of Osun United Football Club. So that's our show for the week. It's the week starter edition of Spot the Money. We'll see you once again on Friday for the weekender edition of your number one sports podcast on radio.